She did that. Did or did not? Like she was saying.
So if and that you're looking for. So you're, I'm trying to mute the wherever this is, so. Sorry, and we should look. Where this is, so. Sorry, and we should look. There you go. Action.
Lovely. Good morning. We are here today for a special meeting of the Albany Municipal Water Finance Authority. Today is Thursday, July 24th, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. in the morning. We're going to go around the table to state who all is here. I'm Kaylee Owis, the chair.
I'm Julia Morris, the assistant secretary.
Dan Herring, treasurer.
Oh, good morning. Julie Canizero, vice president or vice chairman.
John Coffey, water commissioner. The Bill Sipco, deputy commissioner.
Tom Smith, partner from BFPR Group, the external auditors.
Sarah Terrell, Human Resources Generalist. Laura Golfo, counsel. Shannon Wagner, bond counsel.
Alex Lee, subsidiary accountant.
Chris Powers, director of fiscal operations.
Great. To start, we are going to make a motion potentially to approve the minutes for our special meeting, which took place on June 30th, 2025. Do I have a motion to adopt that?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Oh, I do want to note for the record that Michael Whalen is absent today. Apologies. Anyway, the motion passes with our quorum. I do not believe there's any public comment, Karen?
No.
No? Okay, great. So now we are going to get into our committee and other reports. We're going to start out with our independent audit report. You ready?
I am.
Chris, you want to introduce you?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Everybody, this is Tom Smith. He is our lead auditor partner at the EFPR group. This is the second year that Tom has been the auditor for the Albany Water Board, and you know, it's as challenging of a first year that we've had. I think it's actually helped us in our second year. So without the further ado, Tom, go ahead.
Thanks, Chris. Morning, everybody. So what we do is we put together a PowerPoint presentation, which is up on the screen. Figured this would be a little bit easier than going through the financial statements, so I can give you more of a high level bullet points of what happened during 2024. Our first slide, we always like to put our engagement team up on the screen. This way you can see some of the faces that were here doing the field work. There's myself and Ethan Yoder were on site, but we always have a second partner. We'll get financial statements this way. Myself, that was in the field, I might get a little bit too close to the numbers, a little too familiar. This way we have a second set of eyes, look at everything. So a quick overview of time of our procedures. We were here on June 2nd. We issued the financial statement draft on July 23rd, and pending approval from the board tomorrow, we'll be issuing the financial statements. The overall audit results is that we're expecting to issue clean, unmodified opinions on the financial statements. That includes your financial statements and your investment report, which is required by New York State law. That is the highest level of opinion that you can receive on the financial statements, indicating that the financial statements are fairly stated and the numbers are supported. All the records information that we requested from Chris and his team were freely available, so I want to thank them for that. Part of government auditing standards, we also have to issue a report in the back of the financial statements if we come across any weaknesses in the internal controls or any non-compliance. We do have two of those items that we do need to report to you, which will be on the next couple of slides. The first item is significant audit adjustments. We had this finding last year, but this, I do want to let you know that this has been scaled back quite a bit from last year. We did have 7 adjustments that we had to make sure that the financial statements were fairly stated. That does seem like a lot, but if we compare it to last year, we're starting to trend in the right direction. So hopefully next year we can be able to scrap that comment altogether. The second finding is in relation to the Water Authority being a public authority in New York State. In New York State, public authorities have to issue their financial statements within 90 days of fiscal year end. So the financial statements are technically due to the state by March 31st. I understand that this is essentially impossible because you have to work with the city, they are reconciling accounts. So unfortunately, this is a qualitative one, we really have zero discretion on, but we do have to report that in the financial statements and to report. We also issue what's called a management letter. Now, these aren't findings, these are more recommendations or best practices that we come across, things that we think are beneficial to the authority to be aware of. First item, we had one new comment this year, and it's relation to the administrative fee that's paid to the city of Albany. When we were going through the audit, there's a $900,000 disbursement in 2024. In 2023, it's $894,000. So you can see it's a fairly significant dollar amount, but the authority is not receiving any documentation from the city as to how they're coming to that figure. And the city also can directly wire the money out of your account. So there really is no way of stopping them from pulling, if they want to say it's $10 million next year. So really, we want to make sure the board is aware that this is going on. And our recommendation is that the authority find a way to not pay this until the city actually provide property documentation of how they came for this figure. We had three other management comments. These are all follow-ups of prior comments. Last year, we had a comment on the line of credit. In our 2023 audit, we had extreme difficulty from Bank of America in coming up with the number that it was actually outstanding to them. There was approximately $4 million last year, and they wouldn't give us a statement. However, this year, Bank of America was sending statements to the authority, so we are considering this comment resolved in 2024. Another comment we had last year is that journal entries were being posted without any review or approval. Essentially, with your internal controls, the best practices are that we have 3 separate people involved in every process. Someone that approves, someone that reviews, and someone that actually posts transactions. But Chris and his team looked at this comment last year, agreed with it, put a process in place, and all 3 steps are in place now, so this comment is also resolved. And the last comment that we had last year was there was what's called a suspense account being utilized. Essentially, anything that management didn't know how to book was just dumped into this account, and that year end, it took days to be able to resolve this. We recommended that this stop being used because it just created more headaches to go back and try to re-engineer where these numbers are supposed to go. They did not use this at all in 2024, so this comment is also clear. So all 3 of our comments from last year have been resolved. Quick, from a financial standpoint, just the numbers, you can see that your current assets increased by approximately $3.5 million to a total of $28.3 million. And really the biggest account that changed that is we have a due from the city of Albany. That fluctuates between an asset and a liability every year, but this year it is an asset. Your non-current assets increased by $2.1 million. That's really because we have a lot of capital asset additions as we do every year with the infrastructure that goes into the ground. And your total liabilities stayed very consistent, changing just under $600,000. Really, there's a couple things that offset each other. Accounts payable went up, just timing of cash disbursements, and your line of credit is actually down $2 million. So overall, your net position or your equity increased by $5.1 billion. That means that our revenues exceeded expenses for the year by $5.1 million. So year end, at the end of 2024, we have a net position of $75.6 million. Under government accounting standards, we have to break that into 3 different buckets. Essentially, the amount that's tied up in our capital assets, which are $47.9 million, or sorry, $48 million. There's some restricted net position, which are really your investments, and the remaining amount that's available for operations is your unrestricted. That's approximately $14.8 million. The income statement side, you'll see that your operating revenue increased by $900,000. The board approved a 10% increase in the rates for 2024. So that directly ties to that. The operating expenses are also up. That's up $2 million. And really that's, a lot of it is some of our water distribution expenses as well as depreciation are up. Depreciation is gonna continue to increase as we put more pipes on the ground. And the last areas we have non-operating revenue expenses. That's a lot of that is your interest revenue, your interest expense, as well as some of the capital grants you receive. And that increased by $5.2 million in the current year. And really that's because of grants from EFC increased by 1.6 million. And that capital contribution, that last line of 4 million, that is your due to and from other municipalities of the long-term control plan. You actually received then $4 million more than you sent out. The reports of the board, this are required communications to you that significant accounting policies were reviewed, that they are reasonable, your estimates are supported. We didn't have any difficulties in performing this audit. We will obtain a management letter. That's essentially the last piece of documentation we need in our files. It's a letter we send to Chris to be able to say that everything provided is reasonable. We didn't lie, cheat, or steal in the financial statements. We didn't have any significant changes to our planned audit strategy. When the plan changes, that means things went significantly wrong. And we did not come across any other violations of laws, regulations that we feel you should be aware of. We're now aware of consultations with other accounting firms. Essentially, if you had to go get a second opinion on a treatment of an accounting matter, that's something that we would have to discuss with three of us management, and the other firm. We didn't have any disagreements with any of the accounting treatment and no other matters that we feel that the board needs to be aware of. We always put in a couple slides on any type of upcoming governmental accounting standard boards or GASB pronouncements, just because this can result in headaches in management, things that they need to start tracking. We always like to put these in our presentation, so it's not a surprise at year end when we come in and say, did you adopt this? What did you do? We'd rather let everyone know these are coming ahead of time so we can get ahead of them. GASB 102 is going to discuss certain risk disclosures. Now, this is one we'll work with Chris and his team. So essentially what that is saying is, do we have any constraints on how we can generate revenue? Do we have any concentrations with certain vendors? Does the city of Albany have a significant employer that if they went out of business or moved, is gonna hurt our ability to generate revenue? So one of the examples that in New York State, this won't apply to the authority, but in New York State, real property taxes can only increase by 2% a year. Now that would be a relevant one for a town, county, village, saying that we can only raise up to 2% of extra revenue in the upcoming year. So that's just an example of what information they're gonna be looking for with GASB 102. GASB 103 is going to tinker the presentation of the financial statements. It's not gonna be anything significant, but that's something that would be taken care of on our end since we prepare the financials. And the last one is GASB 104. And I don't see this having any impact on the authority because what they're looking for is already adopted in these financial statements. There's been a few other standards adopted in the last few years that a lot of different firms have treated differently, but the way it's presented in these financial statements is already reflected, so that won't have any effect. So really at this point, I wanna turn it over to all of you. Any questions on the audit, financial statements, anything? I can go into more detail.
I have a question. There's a footnote on the rate covenant and it says that we're effectively in compliance with it. What was the number though?
I don't have the exact percentage on that, but off the top of my head, it has to do with the amount of debt service compared to the budgeted revenue. They want to make sure that you have enough budgeted revenue to cover your upcoming year's debt service payments.
No, I understand how it works. I'm asking what the exact number was.
I don't have that figured off the top of my head.
Can you send it to Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would that normally be in the audit report?
I'm sorry?
Would that number, would that normally be in the audit report?
No, it's that we're in compliance, but it's good to know what the number is.
We're giving us plenty of sleep.
I have a couple questions if, board members, if, there was a note about the timing of the audit and the financial statements, making sure that we get that in, 90 days post fiscal year. One thing that we've tried to do with the water board's policies is to kind of acknowledge that we have maybe some constraints in meeting that requirement. Is that something that your firm has looked at as a mitigating sort of factor for that? I mean, we're trying to take it on head on, so I just didn't know if that's.
So there's also what's called corrective action plan, the back of financial
Okay.
statements, where Chris can. You can always tinker and give me new language on it, exactly how we do it. But we also did make sure that after our first draft came out, we tinkered a little bit, saying that essentially our hands are tied.
Right.
And that I can't say it's never gonna happen in the report.
Right,
But that we're dependent on the city
Right.
reconciling certain accounts.
right, okay,
Unfortunately, it's one of those comments that we have to put in there. It's a black and white regulation.
yeah,
But I completely understand from my standpoint, but it's always language that can be tinkered.
okay. Yeah, and I guess I would just say, just for our board members, when we're looking at that sort of note from our auditors, we've done what we can to kind of address it in our own policies. And then my second question was with the payment to the city, that is somewhat based on a contractual obligation. So just wondering if your firm had a chance to look at the operating agreement and any sort of MOUs that speak to it. Yeah,
We look at any agreement, but really what we wanna see is some type of breakdown from the city saying, all right, these are your share of the expenses, this is your percentage, just something that gets us to that
Okay.
calculation. I mean, this year it was 900,000 to the penny.
Mm.
I mean, that almost raises a red flag to me, that allocation could be that exact.
Mm.
So to me, they almost should be sending some type of detailed spreadsheet or invoice saying this is exactly how we got to this number.
And then that 900,000 is on top of numerous other allocations that run through our due from of retirement, healthcare, workers' comp. So that's in addition to that. And as far as I know, we've never had a sufficient backup for that 900,000.
I think it's good to have that statement in the audit report.
Yeah.
That's basically, you can go right to the city with it and say, gotta have it.
Yeah,
That's what what's gonna be our.
It's the
Yeah.
first thing I'm gonna do when I get the.
And
get the report.
I think this kind of goes even back to the last comment. Typically, if we had an unsupported transaction like that would fall under a finding as opposed to a management order comment, but I understand, similar to the 90 days, is that the board really has, your hands are tied again to it. So we tried to find the right way to almost middle it, and we figured putting in a management letter is enough that we could at least, you as a board could take it to the city and said that, hey, we had a red flag raised in our audit. We need to be able to find a way to mitigate this in some way, shape, or form.
thank you.
Anybody else? I think we're good.
So,
Thanks.
thank you, Tom. All right, Mr. Powers. You have financial report for us?
I do, and I'll try and move quickly. Kelly's back from, are you jet lagged or when did you get back?
Yesterday.
Oh, okay, so you are, okay. Anyways, all right, this is, guys, the financial statement package, for June, and, I'll run through this fairly quick. Our revenues collected for the period are $3.5 million. We'll take that every time. That basically spot on to our budget of about 42 million. So that's about exactly where we want to be on a monthly basis. Next time, take care. We compare in comparison, and sort of jumps off the page with 1.9 million collected in the year before. That's exactly the month. June was the month we were trying to reconcile the deposit issues at M&T with our lockbox, which those amounts we'll see kind of came in later in the year and even into early 25. So that's sort of the anomaly there. 24 was a rough year on collections, so we're not exactly apples to apples. But on a year to date, we're also we're 20.1 million, and that's an increase of 3.6 million. Again, some timing there, but 20 million is definitely on point towards our budget. Miscellaneous revenues of 10,000, certainly always helps. And then our relatively recent breakout of our customer penalties, interest of 40,000 up for the period, and then year to date, that's $166,000. So when we get to our accounts receivable aging, there are some aged customers, but that's the benefit of this. We're collecting penalties and interest and sizable penalties and interest on those aged accounts. So that's obviously a good thing. The expenditures are relatively spot on for this month compared to last, and year to date expenditures of 50 million. That's an increase of 2.1 from prior year. 2024 is sort of our first kind of obviously trying to ramp up our accounting department. We're trying to get things better, moving quickly. We were expected to see some increases as we got better in processing, frankly. A lot of our payables, never mind, it was a high inflationary environment. Everything was about 3 times more expensive. So it's a decent increase, but it's reasonable and I think explainable. Our capital spend on the next page. There were 3 disbursements in the month of June, all related to grants, and we love to see that. So that's 250,000 from the DEC related to the land acquisition grant. We separated that money, and we're waiting to actually process that with that land acquisition. The remaining 2 are the EFC grants related to Beaver Creek and the Alcove. Budget to actual, fairly spot on from month to month. And then the expenditures for year to date, under budget by about 4.2 million. But again, that should start to catch up as we get into July, August, September. We do want to see that we're over budget. That's fairly high, but I think we'll see that kind of normalize a little bit as we get on into more into 2025. Other relevant information: $2.3 million worth of aged AR that also incurred. That's sort of a misnomer. That's our total outstanding balance. That does include some current for the month. But again, certain customers, OGS, very often pay 90 days. They do pay, and again, we're making some decent penalties off these guys. So it's not where it's a good thing, obviously, in that sense. But others we do need to follow up on, make sure they're paying more on a timely basis. And we're not just doing it for fees. Our interest paid to date, 712,000. We have our letter of credit, which has been about 41,000 to date, and bond debt of 670,000. That's just pure interest. Next page is just generally a breakout of our revenue to date. We spoke about that, so I think we're pretty good. We can skip to the next page. Again, that's just sorry. Go back. Go back to just very quick. Sorry, that's our normal just consolidated month comparison, and then our annual year-to-date comparison. So we spoke to that kind of in the verbiage. We're going to see, just going down to debt service, that's obviously going to be higher. We've incurred different debt things that go on long-term in 24 that weren't there in 23. Also in 23, and 24, I should say, that they weren't picking up a lot of kind of ancillary debts. There's a lot of apples to apples there, but certainly 20, we're accurate in 25 on our debt service. Next page was just the normal revenue comparison from month to month, from budget to actual from 25. And then just a breakout of sort of our ancillary receipts from our rents, and then our fishing permits and other refunds, things of that nature. Next page is our overall departmental cost review of a budget, and then budget to actual, then year to date actuals. So so we spoke to that, and what's certainly from a budget standpoint, we're still about $4 million under budget, And, we're certainly, we track fairly well to that budget, which is a good thing. We monitor it. And, obviously we're monitoring expenses and trying to be prudent, as we go along, but we're on track towards our budget as at the end of June. We're going to try to maintain that for the remaining 6 months of 2025. Next page is just a breakout of our capital spend going back to 1995. So far in 2025, we have $2.6 million of capital expenditures. So that's that's going to start to ramp up as we're starting to try to finish projects towards the end of the year. But it's on track to certain things are going to be covered by grants. Some certain things are going to be covered out of pocket. But we monitor that, meetings every couple of weeks, and between myself, Bill, Karen, RF, we're monitoring, what we're spending, what we're collecting, from who's it from? Is it from the EFC? Is it from the DEC? And processing those bills through City Hall. So administratively, it's a lot, but we're on it. Next page is our breakout of our overtime. We've in comparison from year to year, again, we've talked about it. It's over, decent amount, obviously, from looking at this, but it's comparable to kind of some of the things that happened earlier in the year. It's expected. You'll see from a due from that we're at $3 million, which is exactly where we would expect that to see. And frankly, okay, we could use a little bit of that, and maybe take down $1 million or $2 million. We're hoping this trend continues. That's what RF and I and we met with Bill a couple of weeks ago, is that this sort of trajectory wasn't happening in 2023. At the end of the year, we were owing them money. It wasn't making any sense because with our analysis, we've been putting money on our monthly transfer schedule along with any capital spend we pay in advance. We worked it out that we should almost never owe money. What's going on here? So we're in the midst of still trying to vet out the different items that they're charging us. Some things we got good backup for, other things we don't. And so we're just trying to make sure they know that we're on it. So obviously, we're definitely reconciling this thing probably on a monthly basis, and I don't think it was done on a yearly basis prior. So we're on it. We want to see this trajectory. We want to see this thing at $6 million at the end of the year, at which point we should be able to take a withdrawal back to help us with our operations. And then when we budget for 26, my view is we probably shouldn't be giving them or as much money as we had. And I think we can talk about that when we get to the budget. But that's, again, we're watching it, and we hope this trajectory continues. Next page. Okay, so this is the aging that I spoke about. Again, this it also includes the under 30 days, so it's not as it doesn't jump off the page as you might think. But again, collecting some good penalties on this stuff, and it's typically the same culture. Again, OGS times union, they pay, but it's they kind of have almost a consistent 60 to 90 days. Some of these have dropped into 120. We got to get on some of these guys to at least get them within 90 days. That's the goal. And then our next breakout is our Route 7 cumulative through June. So these are our big customers, and separating out effects from Bethlehem and Guilderland. It's a 15% increase year to year. So that's exactly what we want to see. Certainly, we want to see it, reflecting our rate increase, and then we have an additional 5% after that. So I think there's, our major players, SUNY Polytech and OGS, which includes SUNY Albany. Those are very strong. We have a few anomalies that still pop out from time to time. We're working on that, but this is, Route 7 is definitely in the right direction. And and we're still drawing up, not anywhere near where we were, but we're still drawing on Bethlehem on a monthly basis. So it's not like it's zero, and it helps us. And
Yeah, they're buying a lot more than the minimum that they contracted for.
right, so they're paying a higher rate now. They've hit that minimum. So the hope is for the second half of the year, they'd be a great revenue source for us, and that's something that that we're tracking as well. Next page, we've included. This is new. I'll do a lot of new things over my tenure here in a year and 10 months. But this schedule here, this is what rolls, and I'm not going to get into the weeds on this, but we want to show the sort of what RF and I and Bill Kahn went through a couple of weeks ago. This is what rolls through our do from, and it's to get into the overall explanation. It'd be a little lengthy and probably not worth it. But in a nutshell, this is the money that we give them, and here's the things that they charge us. Net on the very far right bottom corner, you're going to see that $3 million number that they owe us that I spoke about a few slides ago. So this is something to kind of digest of, we said, listen, we don't run a lot of things through the do from, we have our transfer that we put in every month, for our budget, and then we throw through our capital expenditures and then our tax rollover. But as you can see, like the second, set of numbers there's probably 15 categories of expenses that's essentially allocated to us. You can read those. I mean, some of it's workers' comp, health insurance, the New York retirement, probably the biggest right there. So 1.4 million. These are all numbers that are being charged to us that we're offsetting with the amounts that they take from us, the tax roll and other things. So it gets a little convoluted. Those expenditures, we're trying to vet every one of those. We don't have great support for them. Every so we'll ask for it, we get an Excel sheet. We're trying to actually go to the source themselves to make sure that allocation, let's just say for the retirement plan, is proper. And we're not there yet, but we're getting there, and they know that we're watching it. So, but again, at the end of the day, we're at, sorry.
Now, the administrative line is blank. So you all
Charge once in a year, December.
Yeah, it's once a year. They charge that the December. That'll pop in. So So again, this 900 is an addition to all of these other expenses through this is just through June here. So that 900 will pop up in December on the schedule, but again, with no support. So it's great. We recognize it's some number. We're not saying it isn't. We just need support, and if they can support it, is what it is. Which I think what we're asking for is pretty reasonable. So and they've been reasonable. I don't know what Ken Bennett and guys, they've been reasonable and forthcoming. It's a lot. And
what is the definition of the administrative thing? What are they supposed to?
Bill?
Initially, I remember this goes back a long time ago. When I first became commissioner, and I think at that point, the city obviously was in much different fiscal stress than they are now. And we had a lot of money, and I think they found it as an opportunity to legitimately get a contribution for administrative overhead. And primarily it would be things for IT, for example, the network issues and some human resources that we didn't do internally that we would use with the city. So we were trying to calculate what an appropriate calculation for overhead would be. And if you did it as our revenue divided by the city's revenue, our number of employees by the city's number of employees, it doesn't add up to 900,000. Because we look at the various departments in the city budget, the mayor's office, the human resources, admin, IT, both council, et cetera. We started looking at those numbers. I could come up with maybe $500,000. So I think the auditor putting these comments in the report are important for us, able to get to the bottom of some of these things. My sense is it's probably more than $500,000, it's probably less than 100,000.
And then there's the fact that the agreement for the city to get free water. And there's no accounting for the credit.
The amount.
Yeah. And we do, some of that was the city was gonna do our billing, we do our own billing. So I think it needs to get looked at again.
Yeah, we're in the process, and the more we look, the more we find. Yes. So
I think the other thing though too is I will have an opportunity to look at some point, meet with a new mayor before the new mayor takes over in January, and I have a list of things on my discussion topics to raise. That would be number one. And trying to get a little bit more independence on how we can operate these things without going through, paying bills, et cetera. I think it just allows us to do it more seamlessly and in a more timely fashion. So there's opportunities ahead.
Yeah, definitely.
For whatever it's worth, when the board and the authority were created, the city for the first 4 or 5 years, did continue to do the billing for the water department. So the bills came from City Hall, not from the separate system that we now have here. And there's a lot of work involved in getting out the bills, and there was support for that administrative fee. When the board bought their own system that would be operated here, that fee remained.
So this is our, our first attempt, and when I came on board, I said, listen, we need to get into this do from. This is the first swath of pulling every single thing that's come out of our side and their side, and that spreadsheet has been produced by RF here. Did a fantastic job on it. So this has pulled together the universe of what goes through this line, and it's a lot of data. You're seeing consolidated numbers here. This is a lot of data that runs through. So we have kind of that as our lead sheet now. Now we got to figure out if it's accurate. And then we got to figure out, what is right. And there's that, as Joe was just saying, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement there. Again, with our process now, we have obviously payables were very much an issue at this time of in 2024. We have 3 people working on it, and RF who backs them up if for whatever reason they're not that. And that's the level of complexity that with the interaction not only with the vendors themselves but trying to get these things approved through City Hall, and then so there's obviously room for improvement, but I think we got the right people to do it. So anyway, so that's that sheet, and if people can digest that and come back to us for questions. I don't want to get too much in the detail there, be here forever. But next page, this is just our annual breakout of our 6-month breakout of our routes, and again, this has been strong after some kind of wild numbers early on. So yeah, that's a nice increase, 11% from this time last year. So again, we expect to see 10, we hope, but very often it usually isn't 10. But this is obviously it's in the right direction and over positive. So we hope that and we think that trajectory is going to continue. I think is that it? That is it. It's not fast enough.
Oh, man, there's so much information.
Yes, I know, that's a lot, but we're.
Can you just explain to me, and it might just be because my brain is really tired. So here we see that we have an 11% increase in our revenues, but then we were talking about a deficit of $4 million earlier that we think is going to go away.
Sorry, what page was this 4 million?
3 pages.
$4 million was a lot of credit.
Oh, that's our line of.
Yeah, so that is going to be, we're in the midst, and we're gonna talk about that next, but yeah, we're gonna be, we've had Bank of America for quite some time. That was set up, I think by Bill and my predecessor for the Beaver Creek project to supplement that. So that had been fully drawn down. We were able to pay down $2 million of that in 2024. And so also along the lines, some of the things that the auditor was saying, we had issues with Bank of America, and it just made sense to try to switch to M&T, which does our operating accounts, and that's what we're doing now. So that's the formula that's going away, but we're reincurring $2 million of that. That's the balance. So there's $2 million availability under that $4 million.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Not a problem. So anyways, that unless there's any other questions.
Shannon, you want to talk about our line of credit?
I think that I'm at the end. Do we want to talk about that now, or do we?
Oh, is it? Sorry, I may have.
I'm happy to talk about it now. Whatever everyone's talking.
We can go at the end then. That's fine. Bill Kahn, what do you got?
There's nothing to report.
Just here. Happy to have you.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner, do you have anything to report today?
Yes, I'm gonna take Bill's time.
Lovely.
That's what we do. One of the things, we have these KPIs, it's supposed to the top of it, but I'm not gonna go over these, right to the top of the spreadsheet. Keep going up. And you've got this in a packet. What we do is we just track these on a monthly basis. These come out of Chris's report. I'm a picture guy. I gotta look at the numbers in a different way. We kind of look at, are we, with our red, bright green is well over gold. The red is, we need to look at what's going on. And I think this is what Chris talked about when we're pretty tight on the revenue. We're 96% year to date of our revenue expectation, and we're only 78% of our expenses. And part of that is timing on things that we're looking at, and we do have some vacant positions. Not as many as we have had actually in the past, but they're high compensated positions. A couple of engineering positions, a project manager, either both 100K positions. And we have some blue collar positions that we're looking at, also accounts for the overtime. But again, these are just more for your viewing pleasure. You know, when you look at them, you can kind of scroll down a little bit. And I'm going to capture a lot of this information in a different format. Just scroll down a little bit. And so the first sheet's mostly financial data going. Second sheet, we track some of our KPIs, which are injury, water main breaks, which are, these are all of our operating, a lot of our operating information. Keep scrolling down. I'm not going to get into the details on these in this report. That's our overtime. And we kind of get a little bit closer towards the end of the year. We kind of get closer to budget, but we've had a lot of double shifts and a lot of water main breaks this year, which I think have driven overtime numbers up. And these are just some other numbers that we track for, you know, what the alcove elevation is, how this will compare with an average month in over the past 100 years, so that's 50 years, and if we spilled or not. We were a little concerned early in the year that alcove was a little bit dropping. We had a dry period for a while, so we actually supplemented some water from basically into alcove. Then, of course, it rains real hard, and everything goes up, so we're at a pretty good place in the alcove presently. I just scroll down a little bit. And then we track some of our other key numbers that we've got with leak detection. I'm going to highlight one thing here that we talked to the water board about. When you look at our leak detection, this is, you know, the old way of doing it. We would do some acoustic devices at night, overnight. We put acoustic listening devices on valves and stuff to try to find out, are we hearing anything going back the next day, and correlators to determine leaks. Well, now we've got, we're actually putting sensors on hydrants. And we've got 600 and I forget the number, it was 500 something. We have 535 sensors on 5 hydrants. 535 hydrants have a sensor on there. And this is giving us so much more information. We actually got 60 miles of water main under surveillance out of about 380 water mains in the distribution system. And we've already found, we detected 46 leaks, and we've confirmed and repaired 21. And when you look at what we've got from the leaks detected, you know, year to date, and the amount that we've covered on the old way to new way, it's again, a technology, the investment technology, and it's not all that expensive. Chris is going, yeah, you guys are filling me with buying these things, but the value proposition is a lot better. And frankly, we don't have the labor that we have with the correlators and the loggers at night. So it's kind of just going down a little bit further. And that's it. When we go to the, I have this PowerPoint presentation, and I take a lot of that information every month and we present it at a senior staff meeting with the other department heads. Usually this is a Thursday every month. And I've actually started sharing it with the water board, and let me share it with you. And this is just some things that we had. I wasn't at the July senior staff meeting, I was out of town. So I just wanted to have the slide that was sharing them some of the highlights. And this is pretty much what we looked at. You know, our billings are 11% increase from 2024. And we started Lincoln Park Warning Guard and fluoridation project's been awarded. And our management team is working on with Chris, we're gonna start amping up now, a little behind schedule on our 2026 budget. But we've got with the leadership transitioning next year, new mayor, new commissioner likely. Well, how are we gonna think about planning? What's the game plan for moving ahead? So we took a few of our folks and said with Joe DiGiovine, I think you met Big Joe, our facilities manager for the water treatment plan, to lead an effort with some of our senior staff management team to start doing some strategic planning, looking at each unit. What's their North Star? You know, what are we supposed to be doing? Why are we doing it? How does that align with the water department's core values? What our mission statement is that the board has. So, and it also, from my view, with me not being in that meeting, it's providing some opportunity for some growth and team building for this group of senior staff people. And it also helps identify who are really the emerging leaders. I mean, in my head, I knew who those people are, but I think they're finding out for themselves who they are as they go through this process. We can go to the next one. So what we do is we started tracking this information, and we shared this with the board. We started tracking this information because of COVID. You know, we were starting to see what happened, through the year to date when COVID started coming up. You know, the averages of the water consumption was going down. And then Bethlehem and Guilderland, their contracts expired. So we've got different contracts with them now. We're just trying to look at, go to the next one. Kind of look at our water production. This is where we were year to date, about 3 billion gallons. And then, COVID kind of came in, knocked us down a little bit. And then Guilderland and Bethlehem's contracts were coming down. But SUNY Nanotech organic growth, their consumption's going up pretty well. So I think this is a new normal. And it's kind of weird too, because this year it was kind of wet, dry, wet, dry, wet. So I like where we are with our water production. Next one. And this actually shows our revenue expenses in the same context. I still have no idea what the hell is going on with this one bump in here for billings. I think some of that is kind of timely. This is really for year to date. But this is really what Chris was talking about. Where we are with percent of budget and looking at the revenue growth, which is our top number here. That's pretty impressive. And I think, again, Bill used to talk about when you have a rate increase and it's baked in the cake and then grows with that, the next year have a rate increase on top of that. So they kind of compound. And I think that's what we're finally starting to see some of that. Because, we've had a little bit of organic, water consumption, but we're not seeing the rate increases that we've had over the past 5 or 6 years. Expenses are going up, the billings are going up, all positive numbers, and it just kind of captures it in a quick spot. Next one. So I used to have this great big spreadsheet that we used to present on the lead service partner, and the mayor said, that's an engineer spreadsheet, give me something I can look at and understand. So this is how we got to this. And what you're looking at is the number of lead service replacements we've done month to date and year to date. And you can see right now, we've already done 338 lead services replacements this year to date. Last year total, we did 373. Why the big increase? Because now we have a great relationship working with the city engineers. So when they're doing paving projects, we're getting out in front of them, either doing lead service replacements on our own, or we've got a portion in their contract where their contractor is doing the services and we're paying for it with part of the grant that Bill got with bill money, et cetera. So that's been very helpful. And we're also looking at, this is something I think the water board should be proud of. We started this grant reimbursement program a few years ago. And right now we've given out $1.2 million in reimbursement grants to homeowners to replace their lead service. So we're supposed to hit a certain number, Bill, I forget what that is, about 700 or 800 replacements this year.
Yeah, we have,
of the known.
we've got an administrative order with EPA. And so we're supposed to do 7% of our known lead. But I think we've already done that, so.
Yeah, we're gonna kill that number this year. Next one. And I don't need, that's what we were talking about. That's some of the incident reports and safety, obviously, we put a big emphasis on with capital safety, our new safety consultant, the past 5 or 6 years. We've dramatically reduced, geez, I'm changing myself. Dramatically reduced our workers' compensation, claims, cost incurred. So although we've had a few more incident reports, more medical treatment, more lost time, the nature of the lost time is not as significant from an injury that we had in the years past, but it's still like, God, some of the things that we see for incident reports are like, it's like stepping on a rake and it's that kind of stuff. It's situational awareness is part of it. And I think if we go back and look at where are the claims, a lot of the claims are for maybe newer people, which you'd expect, and for people that are perhaps not in as good a shape as they should be. If you hurt yourself getting out of the truck, that's an issue, just stepping out of the truck. So it's not like the high risk issues. So we started tracking this. Sarah helped put this together for me. We're going by each unit. What was the date of the last lost time incident? I used to drive by when I was a kid. I drive by on Central Avenue. They had that NL Industries, stayed with the town of Colony and that whole thing. The days without injury were like 2,000. We don't have that here. We're trying to get them over like 100. for the department, so we're up to 35 days at the end of June. Are we on the upswing, Sarah? Or-
Still 6-5 stands.
Okay, so fingers crossed, so you can see where we expect some of the maybe higher incidents would be in the sewer and T&D. That's where we're actually digging, excavating, you're in a hole. There's more risk in those areas than we have in some of the other ones. But if we're gonna keep posting this as just maybe some incentive, okay, I don't want my department to be the one that's got the lowest spot. So hopefully it'll just help some awareness issues. If we don't need, I don't think we. And these are some of our construction projects that we're showing. The Lincoln Park Learning Garden. If I send out a monthly action item report every month, and I got like the top 3 or 4 things. From my perspective, looking at the end of the year, we want to get the Lincoln Park Learning Garden project completed. That's supposed to be done by the end of October, I guess. We'll have hopefully a ribbon cutting for that. And the other one is our next one. These are just the light service lines we talked about. The other one is our fluoridation project. We've got a contract award and we're going to be starting that one up. I've just recently, I worked with Dr. Whalen, Liza Whalen. We put together a fact, figures, and frequently asked questions sheet for fluoridation. That's been reviewed. I want the mayor to take a look at it. We're gonna show it to the water board tomorrow. The game plan there is just to have a fact sheet and information out to all of our customers before we put fluoride in the water. It's not, we're not trying to hide anything. Obviously, some people are very anti-fluoride, but it has a I think a proven public health aspect, particularly for our population. A lot of our underserved people don't have the same exposure to dental care. This is a perfect way to address that issue. So we'll have that done, and we're going to try to do that as an insert to the next water bill starting. I'd like to try to get it starting next month, so that's the game plan on that. I think that's pretty much it. And then Steve Mercer has done a great job of our social media, our outreach. I hope you look at our Facebook page. If you don't, please get on it. Steve does these like Charles Kowalt on the road. Hi, Steve Mercer here. He's got the great voice to do it, and he does some really good communications on some of the things that we are working on in the department. Like no wipes in the sewers and things that really are kind of cute and funny in the way that he presents it, but it has a lot of value. So Steve's done a great job, and I really hope that you look at the Facebook social media account. So that's about it. I think, again, from my perspective, looking at the next 4 months, we want to get these fluoride project done, the Lincoln Park Garden done. And I think at some point, maybe on one of your upcoming meetings, next regular meeting, we'll probably be able to have Joe DiGiovine come in and do a presentation to this group, as well as he's doing to the water board about the path forward. What are they coming up with? What are some of the things that they're looking at that become elements of the next 1-page plan? And again, we want to try to get this done now, because what's that, your values reflect your budget, your mission reflects your budget. We want to have the budget and the game plan forward kind of on the same page. So that's it. Any questions on my stuff? I know Bill's got some things that he wants to share.
Are you ready? Are we ready?
Yeah, just trying to update on the various financings that the finance authorities are involved in. So far, for 2021, we're still working on the final couple $1 million worth of that. And we've got a lot of that already under contracts that are going on. So expect to complete that this year. And 18523 is another one we expect to finish up pretty much this year using for a lime feed facility. 18903 ongoing construction is going pretty well with aeration, lime feed maintenance building. So those contracts are going well. We have some additional work we're going to have to get designed and done under this financing. It's going to be a little bit longer, maybe a couple more years. It's not near its maturity yet. Our Basic Creek 19127, we're not moving ahead with that yet. We're applying for grants again this year. we're not planning on doing this dam work, but we've been moving ahead with the design and permitting and the basic rate dam and ancillary. So it's the second, on the second page, also 19157 is one that's, we've got it in the multiple year list, for the intended use plan. But we're not intending to go ahead with that at this time. But we are planning on doing that in a couple of years when we finish some of the things that we have now. We are planning on and going to a closing with 19554, which is for water main improvements. We haven't been able to do any new water main replacement projects this year, but we're that would be a borrowing for several years worth of water main replacements. As Joe mentioned, 19456, the lead service line replacement, we have a disbursement request in for $2.7 million. That's for work done with our own forces. And we'll be using that for Newcastle's paving contract. One of the reasons why we're looking at the line of credit is just the lapse of time that we have between having to pay contractors and getting disbursements through EFC. It creates a cash flow problem for the department. It's not easy. We've been months trying to get this first disbursement on our force account stuff for the lead services, but we're hoping to get this $2.7 million into our bank account pretty soon. And the 19609 is a $2 million grant that's for the exploratory digging that's done to determine whether we have a lead service or not. We're spending that money in relation to the contract that is doing lead service line replacement. The fluoridation project isn't involving any new debt. The audit board is funding any amount that's over like $1 million grant from the Department of Health. The long-term control plan, the only one that's really active at the moment is 1404. And most of that's for projects that are going on in Cohoes and in Troy. So that's just a pass through. 1401 and 1402, we're still trying to make the last draws on those. They went to long-term financing, but we still have some money we can go down. Let me try to get to that. Lincoln Park Learning Garden, we've got a couple of grants that there's no new financing involved in the Learning Garden project. Academy Road constructed wetlands. We've been doing a project with Luizzi that's behind Congregation Beth Emeth, but that's pretty much complete. We have more work we're going to do on Hackett Boulevard that's in the design phase. Beaver Creek Tide Gate project 1800, that's pretty much done. We're just getting to the point of some final repairs to the tunnel, and that'll be wrapped up. This 1900 it's really just a grant only thing, and we're in the process of trying to finish that up. There's a national water main. You might see National Water Main out doing some sewer lining projects for us this summer. Thurlow Terrace is one we're trying to get to a closing on a short-term financing. We've been up, we're just waiting for EFC to approve the engineer's report for that. And the same is true for 2100. 2100 is for a lot of sewer repairs in the collection system. It's got 50% grant funding. We're trying to get that to a closing, and we're just waiting for approval of engineer's report to find out a closing date on that financing. 2200, we're holding off on that for the moment. Hart Street GI project is another one that doesn't involve any new financing. It's all being done with grants or some local share from the water. And that's the list. So we, as part of filling out a worksheet on behalf of the finance authority. Some of the logic for line of credit was just this short-term financing and some of the cash flow problems we have with that. So we listed like 6 projects that in that questionnaire. And so that's really all I have for my update. Thanks, everybody, for just being available to sign paperwork and all this.
I know, closing. Thank you for doing all the work to get us to that point. It's great.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. All right, we do have some new business today. We need to fill 2 vacancies or fill 1 and then somebody in the open spot. I believe we are looking to move Julia Morris from the Assistant Secretary to the Secretary, and we'll move Michael Whalen into the Assistant Secretary spot. We also have board trainings coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an ABO training coming up, Wednesday, August 27th. They usually do these by WebEx. So if you need to register for that, folks who have been recently appointed, like Mr. Whalen, we would encourage to take this training. But I believe everyone else is up to date. I'll check in with that with Karen. Basically, you have to complete it within 1 year of appointment, and then every 3 years that you're on the board, so.
And then we also have to take our COLAG training.
Yes, I need to get more information for you all for that, but yes.
I know that for Julia Morris and I, we
Yes.
already take that training, so if we can
Yes.
double count that.
Yes, and did you do that already this year? You would have your certificate, okay,
Yeah.
perfect, yes, if you just wanna shoot that to the Karen, that would be great. Provide additional information for other
And
board.
if you guys haven't taken it, it's a very exciting time, also on WebEx.
And then, of course, we'll have our City of Albany, sexual
Sexual
harassment.
harassment.
Yes, that'll be coming up. Usually I think they do that in October, and then they give you to the end of the year to finish it.
Lovely. Then we will just wait till you're here to make sure on the ABO training that we're all good.
Yes.
Other than Wayland.
Yes.
And you'll let us know about the COLAG stuff.
Yes,
Okay, thanks, Sarah.
yep.
All right, we're ready for resolutions, but before we do that, do we want to talk about the supplemental authorizing bond? Shannon.
Sure. I'm sorry, I realized that I could have given a brief overview before and then done the resolution, but so in June, you guys scheduled 2 meetings, held one to authorize first an extension of the Bank of America line of credit, and then secondly, authorize entering into a line of credit with M&T. So in June, we did complete the extension of the Bank of America line of credit, so all of the termination dates and the payoff date for that was extended from June 30th to July 31. So next week, the last outstanding amount on the Bank of America line of credit is coming due, which is, I believe, 2 million. So what we're trying to do is coordinate the closing of the M&T line of credit with that payoff of the Bank of America line of credit. The Water Authority is required to get approval of each new line of credit from the Office of the State Comptroller. We submitted the term sheet and a couple of supporting documents to the Comptroller, and they raised a couple of questions and asked M&T to update the term sheet, which Chris went back and forth with them on, and we've now received an updated term sheet with the OSC's comments, which basically were to change the interest rate calculation, switch from a daily simple SOFR to a 30-day SOFR, and just clarify that we're using tax exempt rates, there's no look back period for the SOFR, and that there's no facility fee or unused fee. So the resolution that you have in front of you today authorizes the new term sheet. And that's what we'd be asking you to adopt.
Okay. Any questions on this line of credit update?
It doesn't affect creation work.
No.
Position was
It's
over.
just clarifications from the state comptroller in order for us to change from Bank of America to M&T.
Yeah, no, we answered it all.
And everything is clear, we just now have to approve it. Correction?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Can I have a look at that resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, great. In which case, we will get to voting on resolutions, fun part of the day. All right, so our first resolution, oh, did we have anything else?
You have them up here, but you can see.
Think she might. Okay, so the first resolution we have on the table today is 25-06, excuse me, the election of officers to fill vacancies. The motion is to make Julia Morris our secretary and to make Michael B. Whalen Jr. our assistant secretary. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Motion by Julia Canizaro. Do I have a second? Second by Dan. All in favor? Aye. Also you?
I said I.
Okay, great, the motion passes. Next we have resolution 25-07 to accept our 2024 financial statement and independent audit report that we went over today at this meeting. Do I have a motion for this resolution?
Make the motion.
A motion by Dan, a second?
A second.
A second by Julie Morris, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have resolution 25-08, a resolution authorizing disbursements for Wilmington Trust in the amount of $1,500 and Great Point in the amount of $2,500. These are our regular disbursements to them. Do I have a motion for this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
And do I have a second? Anybody? Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, motion passes. And finally, we have resolution 25-09. It is our supplemental resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of documents in connection with providing for a line of credit from M&T Bank to the Albany Municipal Water Finance Authority, which we just discussed with Shannon from Hodgson Russ. Do I have a motion for this resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? Second by Julia Canizaro, all in favor? Aye, motion passes. Lovely. I do not believe we need to have an executive session today. Our next meeting is Thursday, September 25th at 8:30, unless it happens to come up before then. I'm sure we'll have a bunch of closings between now and then, hopefully. Great job, Bill's info. Do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting today?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second? All in favor? Aye. Lovely, we are adjourned.
There's something for me to sign off.
No, I don't believe.
Perfect. Okay.
Well,
I looked, I didn't say anything.
Shannon has the whole thing though.
Okay.